Good evening, all. Thank you for coming. I am Sheila Noyce Miller, the chair of Budget Subcommittee. Sheila has chosen today to lose her voice, so otherwise she would kick this off. The Budget Subcommittee this year is Sheila Noyce Miller, who represents Brimfield, Megan Cunningham, who does Brookfield, Kristen Leo, Sturbridge, new to us, Candace Green from Holland, and Mike Valenzola from Wales, who isn't here tonight. We had our usual almost all-day affair on Saturday in January. We're going to present to you where we are now, which is different for those of you who, actually even if you're on the committee, the detailed document is slightly lower, not slightly, it's a good chunk lower, than what we mailed out and what the committee voted last month, because we've had a little bit of change in the last month. So as we find out that we got an oil bid lower than we anticipated, we cut the budget. When we found out we got a health insurance rate lower than anticipated, we cut the budget. And we have 2 staff members that are not retiring but did resign and give us the opportunity to replace at entry level. We reduced the budget. So the total budget we're talking about tonight, Steve and I, is $230,000 lower than it was a month ago. So the documents that you've seen before, I believe were a 5.6 or 5.5% increase. We're down to 4.9%. So, and we can highlight, there were really just 3 line items, oil, health insurance, and senior high salaries. So Steve and I are gonna go through where we are right now and answer any questions, and we'll keep on working through the process. It has been a little bit of a challenge this year because the state budget came out so late. So school committee voted this budget within, I think, 2 or 3 days of us getting the state revenues, or we hadn't quite crunched them yet. So we're working our way through, but I think we now at least know worst case, and we'll see what else happens as we go through. Anyone who doesn't know, Steve Nimmerko is the current Director of Business and Finance. We only have one. Who do I have that is not school committee? One. All right, 2.
All right.
2.
The choir's here, that's great. Okay, this is your operating budget by series. And essentially what this is, it's the FY23, the FY24 budget broken out by the DESI 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, and 9,000 series. They're required by DESI. That's how we keep track of things. So what does this tell us? Other than nice little wedges into a round pie here, we have a general expansion of the budget here. So if you look at FY23, instruction's up just a little bit. Insurance are up just a little bit. Some other areas are up, 3.4 to 3.5 in the building maintenance. So those areas are up just a little bit, and they're up for the reasons that Deb had spoke to you about. But as you can see, when you look at this, a large portion of your budget goes to kids in classrooms and providing those types of services. Okay, so what is the 2000 series? The 2000 series is instruction. So what we've done is we've taken the entire budget, reduced it down to the 2000 instructional level, and this is how we break out our 2000 instructional series by building admin, teaching, special education, library media guidance, and technical division teaching. As you can see, again, most of our budget is spent teachers in classrooms. Through regular teaching, special education, guidance, those types of areas where direct services to kids that we have.
Special ed is 14.2%. That's the one that I'm just trying to, professional development and special ed look like the same color to me right now, so it's fine.
Yeah, no, special ed is the 14.
Okay, I assume,
Yep.
but I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Yeah, if this had better resolution, you'd be able to. Okay, so this question is, where does the money come from? Money comes from Chapter 70, which is the direct grant from the state, the out-of-district tuitions, miscellaneous revenue, local assessments, school choice tuition in, and district reserves. As you can see, the Chapter 70 is up a little bit from last year, the 14.3 to 14.9. Some of the other areas are up just by a little bit. And then 300 to 350 on the district reserve. So we're throwing more money from our reserves at the general budget. What this does is, these are the revenues that come in. These help to offset your individual town assessments. So we have X amount of dollars in the budget, then we apply these revenues, whatever's left over, what gets distributed out to the town for the assessment.
You could see the story here is Chapter 70 did not come into us as generous as it was last year, or as generous as we had hoped. We did certainly still get an increase, which we'll go through in a bit, but as a result of it being less of an increase from last year, there's a little shift going to, last year, we ultimately last year had almost a 0% increase in assessment to the 5 towns. But having less Chapter 70 shifted things a little bit, and we certainly were not able to get that level.
Okay. Essentially, this tells us where the money goes. Most of our money goes to wages and salaries. The other big piece of the pie are student services. And then another piece of our pie is insurances. So those are kind of the areas where we have our largest increase in expenses. And you know, it's not unusual for those to be the areas where we spend the most.
And I think the 17% is obviously not correct. It's more like almost 50% there.
Is that?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to add those up. Those are-
Yeah, no, definitely things are a little bit off there. If
Oh,
this is
yeah, that's
the
not,
total.
the total didn't come out right. That should be much higher there, so. Then we'll go to our enrollment.
Yeah, so, and any of you who've been here before have seen this. It's sort of the precursor to what we're gonna see in a bit when you start looking at assessments by town. The story here is, though it looks little, the numbers there are FY24 numbers. We obviously couldn't fit each one. But Wales, that little, what looks like a little step up at 9.27 is almost a 1% increase in their percent share of the pie, which is going to result in problems for Wales. Other than that, there's little shifts, and remember, the overall assessment is a factor of the percent enrollment as well as minimum contributions. So the state calculates minimum contribution requirements based on its wealth-based formula. That comes first, and only whatever's left afterwards goes by percentage, but that will come into play in a little bit. This is historically, so that shows the 4.9, which is not the 5.5 that you're at. I lovingly remind folks of the year in fiscal 21, which we were working on in the spring of 2020, and we took a number of hits because the sky was falling in. Ultimately, the sky didn't so much fall in, but that 1.7% budget was only achieved by eliminating 3 teaching positions that we are tonight looking to get the last of the 3 in and not funded by federal grants, which has been the case. Let's see, so the overall total there, what else has happened, Steve? Lost my page, is that on me? Yeah. And again, our goal is always to present as affordable a budget as we can to our member towns while still sustaining the services that we have in place, and in occasion, moving a little forward. There's not a lot of moving forward here, but we will highlight in a bit a couple of new asks that are really kind of bringing back in. So overall, district improvement plan concentrates on curriculum alignments, increase in technology. I'm gonna give 1 or 2 people who weren't here last week a little technology update in a bit. And our community connections involves updating our website and increasing our ability to communicate both within school and in general community, and increase our translation services on the website, so that is coming. The new student information system we are in the middle of implementing Now, our staff will fully use it for the first time next year, so it's kind of a 2-year implementation process. We have, at least as of today, only 2 known teacher retirements. That comes into play when the more you get, the more likely you could plan on some lower entry level replacements, and that helps keep the budget down. We don't have that happening this year. We do have a couple of things in this budget that we are looking to get back. As I just mentioned, when we were heading into fiscal '21, we reduced an in-school suspension position at both sides of the street. And we reduced that, A, because we had budget crunch. B, we changed it to, we kept a pool of the money for substitutes because we could foresee a need for more substitutes. That need has only decreased a little. We're still certainly having more substitute need than in the past, but we do need to get those positions back in. Laws have changed around suspension rules. For good or bad, there's much more rigor and evaluation before we can suspend a student. Very few reasons that we can suspend immediately. Some of them make our process more challenging, and certainly more if we don't have that in-school option to work with. We needed to add this year an instructional assistant and an ABA assistant for the Pathways program due to student needs, new students coming into the district and their level of need increasing. So we're absorbing that this year within the budget. We need to get them in next year. And then the big new ask is to increase one adjustment counselor at the high school. I think most folks are well aware, we have all been struggling across the country with mental health issues, behavioral health issues. Another adjustment counselor is needed to serve special needs as well as not special needs, because mental health is not a special ed problem, it is a global problem. And we are hoping by getting that in, it will help us serve a little more the population that we have and decrease. We have had more outplacements this year than we have in many, many years, that we hit the point that we could not serve our students in a safe way and academically in-house. Those costs go to each of the towns. They show up in the elementary budgets via out-of-district tuitions. So we're trying to put programs in place to minimize that. Other than that, I mentioned earlier, we're trying to get that last of the 3 positions we cut back into the budget that was being funded by ESSER, and a little piece of a guidance team chair. Other drivers are the utilities, your heating oil, your electricity. Even though we did get a better rate than we thought, I believe that line is still up $60,000 for oil alone, and electricity rates are increasing. We currently we have no contracts that are up this year. So this is usually the off negotiation year.
Okay, I'll talk a little bit about the revenues here. Chapter 70 up 5.6%. This is due to increases in low income, increases in the English language learning population. The 5.6 is less than last year. However, it is, over the grand scheme of years, it's up a bit when we were getting 2s and 1.5s and things like that, so that is a good thing. And then anytime you have a 5.6% increase, compared that to a 4.9% increase in the overall budget, that will allow some of those revenues to be returned to the town to help offset those assessments going forward.
This is pretty typical.
Yeah.
We continue to use school choice funds for our technology and capital projects. My favorite chart. This is when we pull together and pretend we are a K through 12 district, even though we are not. So this is as of today. I cannot say for sure that some of the elementary budgets might change a little bit, but going through actually all public hearings so far except for Brimfield, these are the numbers we're at right now. So you can see the Tantasqua assessment increases there, that first column. They are certainly higher than we have in the past and a bit concerning. When we combine, actually, they're in the middle there. Tantasqua only. When you're coming close to 4s, it's usually, we're not sure if we can do it. So that first column is high. It is a combination of your elementary, which is on your far right, and Tantasqua, which is almost in the middle. We're still working with all of our towns. What I put here, which is my Sally Sunshine moment, is I've added that third column in, which is the Chapter 70 increase this year for each of the towns. So while Brookfield, for example, Brookfield's overall school increase is 6.1%, because of the elementary school's 7% increase, they're getting $256,000 more in Chapter 70 money. So that's gonna go a long way, almost the whole way, to cover everything schools are asking for, which is why we have hope that we can get through and get this budget. We have to continue to talk to some of the other towns, knowing what they have in either tax-based, new growth, and reserves. But this is where we're at right now. I think we're gonna move forward with this and wait to hear from our towns. Obviously, you get to the Wales, and Wales' big whomping piece of Tantasqua is the 13%, although dollar-wise, it's just $13,000. That number might be wrong, that 13,108, that's a duplicate. The elementary is down very low, Tantasqua's up because Wales' population is mostly here and decreasing significantly at the elementary, so that sort of shifts, and those are things that I'll have to work with them in-house. The big pictures for those who don't know, the Brookfield Elementary, huge numbers there are because of out-of-district tuition and Sturbridge. So Brookfield and Sturbridge have out-of-district tuitions. They are Brookfield and Sturbridge students. They may or may not be elementary students. They may also be Tantasqua students. When we can't serve them in-house, that their elementary budget is where those costs go. So we need to be cognizant of that and take that into consideration when we move forward. The next one shows you what last year was, which I just left there. Ted?
Yeah, could we go back one second? I just have
Yep.
a question on that one. I just want to make sure I understand it completely. So you're saying that we're getting like, let's say Brookfield, right? They have a little bit more, like, let's say a $310,000 increase.
Yeah.
The 256 is coming, is gonna cover, like.
It's
all
Chapter
of-
70.
Yeah, okay, so they only really have 70 that's gonna be on the town itself.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Exactly. I go down to Sturbridge, that is a big number. It's a
Yeah.
huge number, and the elementary school this year is a 2% increase. But for a number of reasons, especially the tuition's at 6.9. So that 1.1 million, less than half of it will come from Chapter 70, and the rest of it,
Yeah.
we have to work with the town to see how they can get there. The next slide shows last year's, where the total school increases were 1% and minus. So if I had more people here, I'd be saying, this is showing for years we have done our best to try and keep our school asks as low as possible, and we've shown the trend for Tantasqua. Last year, we were very low, and we cannot maintain that without cutting services, and we're not prepared to do that yet. So there's a big difference between last year. The last couple of years have looked, this was lower than most, but the few years before that weren't too much higher than this. So hopefully our towns can understand and appreciate that. It's just a little bit more there.
Okay, so this is the general fund budget request. That's at 27,624, which was reduced from the original budget sent out in January. Net reserve revenue and local receipts, that's our 25,924. Net school spending requirement of 22,722. That means the towns spend about 14% over the minimum requirement required by the state. Seems like a lot comparatively to the entire state. The entire state's about 23% on average above the net school spending requirement. So, you're doing less with more, or more with less in this situation, because you're keeping the above net school spending relatively in check, but you're getting a lot of things for that. And then next year we have anticipated grants which should be no surprise to anyone. Special education, Title I, Title II, Perkins, which that goes into supplemental programs as well as some of the programs that have become staples throughout the district, like Title I. So. And this is just some of the examples of revolving funds that we have. We run a summer camp, brings in a little money, as well as school choice. As you know, school choice funds the capital items that we've talked about before.
We have one more year of ESSER, of the COVID-related emergency grants. We built a plan and we're pretty much on track to spend those ESSER $3 over a 2-year period this year and next year. We are on track also, if we can get this budget, to be getting off the cliff. There's a few salary items that we had in that we do not anticipate being able to not have in another year, or usually around mental health and special needs. But we intentionally built a plan that's a balance of salaries and technology and HVAC improvements, so we will continue to do that and hopefully not find ourselves a year from now feeling like we're losing something significant and decreasing services. I think we're gonna be fine. And then, as Steve referred to, so these are some of the items, I don't know that they're all, that we continue to use school choice. We put some school choice dollars towards operations, far more of it towards our capital items. Little asterisk there, the capital plan that we've got here does note the wireless devices on both the junior high and senior high. For those of you who weren't here last month, I will announce that our technology director was successful in getting a $700,000 grant to buy 1,200 Chromebooks from the federal E-rate program, which will put us in a position to be sure that every single classroom has a full set of Chromebooks to be able to use for lesson plans whenever they want. And then we'll also have a reserve that we've been purchasing for the last couple of years to be able to sign out to students who have need. So we're very excited about that. What we will likely do instead of the capital plan that you've got for for technology or wireless devices, we will need to use some of that money to either buy carts or more likely shelving units to actually have these stored nicely in every single teaching classroom. So I'm very excited about that.
So keeping on that wavelength here, the senior high is looking at some fairly significant capital plan items. Most notably, the additional security cameras. There's some blind spots at the high school, and they want to patch up those areas with additional cameras. Replacement furniture. Some of the furniture we have is quite old and is in need of replacement. The carpentry van, from my understanding, it cannot pass inspection, so that needs to be replaced. And then some of the big ticket items here at the junior high include a piano, $10,000 piano, which will be very much appreciated because the current piano cannot be tuned anymore, as well as magnetic door releases that'll be able to create a situation where there's a fire safety. You'll be able to hold the doors open until the alarm goes off and they'll automatically close. So those are some of the important things that we're moving on with.
My friend Larry Morrison would want to make sure that we say, were it not for school choice, many of those things would have to be in the operating budget. And then you all know I love to end with, we are still a no-fee district. So that is what we hope to continue to be. Any questions on the documents, the line items? I'm really looking at the two people who, I don't know, Chris is going to be.
I have a question.
Kristen, yeah.
The only question I have is, you mentioned L students, but you didn't mention Title III grant funds.
We have not received Title III grant funds. I don't think we qualify.
We don't, our population's too small, low income.
I thought it was a per pupil grant.
Based on the.
It's
We have
based
never
on your
qualified.
March 1st sims
Oh.
and your L student population, so I'm just
still an entitlement grant, we would get notification from the state whether or
Right.
not those funds would be.
I would still make inquiries.
We could, sure.
Okay.
I really push for it because I know Worcester gets about $4,000.
Okay. We have very
That's the
little-
only
and
reason
again,
why I'm
there's a
asking.
little bit of L funding buried in the Chapter 70 formula, special
No,
needs and low income.
This is Title
But
III, so
we have
that's
not,
the only reason why I asked.
we'll look into it, we've never gotten
Yeah.
notice of the Title III entitlement.
Never.
I mean, you guys are educating them and providing ESL
Yeah.
services, so I don't know why.
And the population is
It's
increasing,
growing.
we're.
And the population is
Yeah.
increasing, so I think you need to ask the question.
Yep.
I still think because we're under 100 globally, I don't think we would, but we certainly
How
will.
can they do over people if
I
it's?
don't know.
Well, there could be a minimum first and then three.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
We'll look.
the numbers are just increasing.
Anything else, anyone else? School committee will go into their regular committee meeting at 6:30 and then hopefully vote some of these numbers, for those of you that are here to hear the numbers. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call the meeting to order at 6:32. We'll start with pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Valenzola is in Texas, picking yellow roses. And so I have the dubious honor of chairing the meeting this evening. First of all, the approval of minutes, the wrong minutes were included in the agenda. So we're going to postpone any action on the minutes, and we'll move right into the financial report. And I believe that we have some votes if necessary.
Actually, we wondered, I think we can, either way, the question is when.
Sure.
Do you want under finance report or budget to take the votes? Finance committee folks didn't even come over and join us here, so they must have just taken the papers and ran.
Move.
We'll do it under budget. So, Steve could talk about this year first, and then we can get into that. Right. Okay.
Okay, Steve?
Okay, yeah, I'll be quick with this. Not a lot has changed since last time. Our expenditures and encumbrances are in line. As we finish out the year, we're looking fairly decent, except for areas where we know transportation, special ed transportation, that type of thing. So pretty healthy balance right now of $649,000. We'll be watching that as we finish up, but moving along without a lot of news to tell.
Any questions? Steve? If not, then we'll move on to the next part of the financial report. What?
Right, so I think Kristen is going to do the
Right.
speaking.
Yeah.
Okay, someone has,
Megan.
someone has Sheila's motion.
And I believe
so
Megan's doing it in
we're gonna
Spanish.
run-
She told me that earlier.
So I have several motions to make, all of which were unanimously approved by the budget subcommittee. I would like to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2024 budget in the amount of $27,624,102.
Is there a second to that motion?
don't
We don't need a
That's what he
second
just
because
whispered, I think.
it's a minute from
The
the
subcommittee
team.
recommendation.
All right, any questions? Discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? It passes. Next,
Okay, the second motion is to approve the fiscal year 2024 transportation assessments as presented.
any discussion or questions? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, next.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2024 net operating assessments as presented.
Any questions on that? If not, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? So carried.
Okay, and the final motion is to approve fiscal year 2024 capital plan as presented, funded from school choice.
Any questions on that? Discussion? We'll move to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? So passed. Thank you.
So I have one more, and the school choice, the capital plan under financial report was just mistakenly typed there twice.
Mhm.
The school choice vote is to vote the number of slots you have available, or you're willing to take in for next year. So I'll first give the recommendation and then talk about it from there.
Please do.
So our recommendation and budget subcommittee approved to accept up to 38 incoming seventh grade school choice applications, up to 9 incoming eighth grade applications, and up to 5 incoming ninth grade applications.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the school choice recommendation of the superintendent?
So moved.
So moved by Kristen, second. Second by Christine.
So I'll just give you a little bit of background. As of today, we have 33 applications at the seventh grade level. We have 6 at the eighth grade level. We have 14 at the ninth grade level. We have 1 at the 10th. We have 1 at the 11th. We shouldn't have even accepted it, but I think it's a sibling situation. You have 41 12th grade school choice students graduating. Our recommendations would probably cover more than that, but we're seeing pretty steady numbers coming in. We actually have a few more at this point this year for seventh grade than we did a year ago. And the reason we're recommending some at the eighth grade is we have a smaller eighth grade class, is 260, seventh grade class, current seventh grade.
258, 260.
Okay, 258. So we had a very small residential, and then we had less applications than we thought, so we think we can handle, again, not all, well, it's up to 9, but I don't think we're gonna get more than 6. I think that's probably all we'll get. And then the eighth grade moving into the ninth grade, we currently have 12 out-of-district technical students graduating. We have a higher than usual eighth grade application pool for the technical program. That's been increasing for a number of years, which will probably result in us taking a few less out-of-district tuitions than we have in the last few years, which is why we're suggesting with 14 freshman applications that we take 5. It's not dollar for dollar. The out-of-district tuitions are certainly more, but we think we can handle and keep it within probably a little bit less class size for the freshmen than the current sophomores. So that explains where we're at.
Any questions or discussion on the motion?
With the up to 5 in the ninth grade, what does that put our total school choice coming into the high school for
In
that
the
grade?
ninth grade, if we took that and the handful, we would end up with 303 as freshmen. Our current freshman, I think, is around 311.
And of the school choice number, the total school choice number in the ninth grade, of that
Oh.
303.
That's the total class.
Shoot, I don't have that with me. It's in the 30s. I don't have that with me,
Okay.
Michelle.
But it's substantially online with the
Yes,
numbers we've had.
absolutely, yeah. Oh, thank you, thank you. So, the current eighth grade, you have 39. So if you add 5, you're at 44. And you're graduating a 41, the juniors have 40. So we're in line with where we've been.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Steve.
If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion as read? signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Vote passes. All right.
That's it for finances, and I'll keep you all posted on what we hear from our towns over the next month or so.
Okay, staff reports, junior high school.
Sure. So right now, this month, we're in a big-time planning mode. So we have MCAS coming up. We were hopeful that the grant that Mr. Rosso received for the Chromebooks was gonna give us the Chromebooks fast enough to allow us to break up our MCAS testing, since it's all online. Takes 10 days now, because we only test one grade at a time, but because we didn't have enough devices to do the whole school. This will be the last year now, because we'll have plenty of devices. I was praying that they'd be in on time, so we can just squeeze them all into 2 days of math, 2 days of English, but I was just hopeful it'll be good for next year. Maybe even the May MCAS return by then. Might be stealing part of Miss Joseph's here, but high school transition process has been underway for the past few weeks now. We've had the parent presentation for our 8th grade parents, put on by the high school guidance staff, and the high school guidance counselor has been down here for the past 2 weeks, it feels like. And we've thrown every hurdle at her, between car accidents on the Mass Pike and snow days in the middle of March to make this drag on, but it's going very well. She's taking her time with every kid and giving them their kind of moment in the spotlight to meet the high school guidance counselor. So it's been good for our kids. And spring sports, although it doesn't feel like it or look like it outside, they're off and running. Our tryouts are done. We have this week off because the high school does their tryouts. All of our coaches on both sides of the street help each other out for tryouts. And then we're just in end of year activity planning mode right now. Field trips for June and kind of field days and things like that. Our Project 351 kids have their clothing drive up and running from now and through next Friday, and their collections are here at the school. And finally, our school play. The kids have been practicing hardcore for the past 3 months, and the performance is next Thursday and Friday evening. If anyone would like to come see the kids, it's a small cast, but it sounds like it's going to be an excellent show. And I did put in a request to declare some items obsolete. We have a few gymnastics mats that have been in the storage closet for over 15 years now, unused. And so they are in decent shape still. So the request is to donate them, not throw them away. And so I would start with our own in-district buildings to see if anyone wants them. They would just need to be deep cleaned, but.
Okay, is there a motion to declare the gym mats obsolete at the junior high? So moved. So moved. Second? Over here. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. You're obsolete. Okay, moving right on. Technical division, Mr. Wood.
Sure. So this morning at about 5:30, Chef L and 2 culinary teams and Mr. Bernard and 1 hospitality team went to Pro Start at Gillette Stadium, which is a huge event. It's something this is only our 2nd year, and what I did learn is that the hospitality kids did win the best marketing plan. So that's kind of cool. I don't know a lot about this because, as I said, this is a huge event and brand new. So that's kind of exciting. Skills USA, district competitions were yesterday. I'm not sharing the results with you because I'm going to share it with the kids on Thursday morning first, and then I will give you a full report on next month. But there's some good news. In the report itself, a couple of positives. The Perkins positive placement, the report is due. Was due in March. By the end of March, it's in. It's as I presented to the curriculum subcommittee. It's a pain in the neck to do this report because there's just so many levels. But at the end of the day, the numbers are really good for us. I mean, our kids are staying in programs. Our kids are going on to school. They're getting jobs in their fields. So you look at those numbers, and it really speaks volumes to the training that our kids are getting and what they're choosing to do with their careers. So I think that's important. The other report in here goes back to the Perkins indicators. So the Perkins is now on its new Perkins. We had the 5-year plan for 8 years, go figure. But we have the reallocation of Perkins, and they're changing it in this year, thank you. But if you look at those numbers are also, we are exceeding or meeting the state criteria and benchmark. The one thing that is very interesting is the non-traditional numbers, even though we met it with the 90% slide rule they put in, that's kind of a moving target because it's kind of more difficult to describe what non-traditional is in today's world. So I think the state is really wrestling with how do we do this moving forward. That would be the only area we would have to do an improvement plan on, but given again what is going on in society and how that is just such a moving target, we don't have to do it, so that's a win. And the other thing that was a really cool project, and this was, I don't know if it's the second or third year in a row, the CAD kids designed 2 holes for the library in town, and just to see the planning process and then the building process, and the kids doing this and then trying the holes out to make sure they work. I don't know if anybody got to the event, but it's pretty amazing. They do a super job. And I'll tell you next month about a couple of new projects that we have going on in tech. It's tough to keep up with when kids are out of the building and what projects they're working on, just because every time we turn around, everybody wants a job done, and they always give me the same line. This would be a really good learning experience for the kids. There you go. And we try to accommodate everything we can. So I'll show you some from one of the libraries. I think it was the Brimfield Library. The lighting that was just all done, just amazing. It's just the kids just do super work. It's fun. Thank you.
And the carpentry group came into Brimfield and built the sandbox covers over there this past 2 weeks. Beautiful job, great group of kids. It was fabulous.
It was a good learning.
I wish I had some. Well, we didn't even know they were coming. It was all last minute, so we waited our turn for it to come around, and when it did, it was awesome. So, yeah, I didn't have any pictures with me, but.
Thank you very much for that comment. And the high school. Oh, Danielle? Yeah, I'm sorry.
I just was wondering if there's an accounting or a tally of how much money our kids are saving, our member towns, with these projects.
What we usually do in the annual report, I put it out to the teachers. Tell me what you did this year and tell me how much it saved the town. And that way, again, when a town sees an assessment that's up, but when you look at the collective, years ago in Brookfield, we did the fire station, the roof. If you all know the fire station in Brookfield, it is a huge roof. It saved tens of thousands of dollars. And if you look at collectively what the projects that are done, whether it's at the town hall or in the libraries, the police stations, whatever, we put all that together so people can see there's value added for the money you put into the education, what you're getting back into the community.
Thank you.
Definitely, I can definitely say we actually saved a couple grand. Just for covers, a couple grand. I think, am I allowed to say how much?
You can.
It was just under $500, and everywhere that we looked around, it was close to $3,000-4,000 for covers to put on a sandbox.
I'm not sure how we get the word out, maybe once I get the website up and functioning, but I think it's good that people realize that these things are happening, besides the school committee and a limited number of people that are involved. All right, now the high school.
Well, we, as Greg said, we're underway with the process of the transition from this year to next year, while we also wrap up the year, obviously. Our scheduling and course selection process is through the student selection part, and we're now doing the course tallies, and we'll continue on with that part of things there. This week, what's happened in the last week, so you can see that we have our spotlight on our arts program. I invite you all to our open arts night on April 4th from 5 to 8 p.m. at the high school. It's an evening with the arts. This is open to the community, and we'll be on the first floor primarily, and the second floor of the building, where we display all of the art from K through 12 at the high school on that day. So I welcome you all there. We also, within our musical arts program, we just had tryouts for grades 4, 5, and 6 last Friday for The Little Mermaid. So we're on track for that. And our show choir this weekend competes at Little Rhodey in Rhode Island. So they're looking forward to that as well, as they just have a few this is the end of their season, actually, a few competitions left before they bring it home. In the building, we also, and Jake will talk more about this, we just had our student council kids go to MASC, where we participated in the polar plunge. He'll talk more about that. And our student council is also planning as well for our upcoming spring fling dance. It is a Tantasqua only dance, and that's next Friday night. We're also planning for prom and other senior events ahead. But we also have a combination of weeks where we're combining the Sandy Hook Save Promise Club theme of see something, say something. It starts with hello, all of those things. And they are sponsoring some days this week. We have a guest speaker tomorrow in Ed Garrity, who speaks a great deal to mental health, bullying, but also very uplifting messages there. The kids actually happened to see him. We already had him booked. Our student council kids happened to see him at MASC this past month. And then next week we have the Dude Be Nice Week. So that is also a national planned event, and we collaborate with all of our groups, our service community-oriented groups, to create thematic days for our students. And we're focusing on things like, what does a trusted adult look like? Again, the see something, say something. How do we be upstanders and bystanders? And support peers. So those are the things that we're working with there. We're kicking off MCAS, finishing up MCAS retests, and we have MCAS ELA taking place next week. Our winter sports finished up strongly, and our spring sports are underway. And then because I won't see you until after this happens, don't forget to watch As Schools Match Wits on April 15th at 7 p.m. This guy might be competing as well as some others. And they went up against Munson, correct?
Yep.
Back in January, so you'll get to see the results of that.
So we got the television blues on, Jake, tonight?
Yeah. Yeah. There was no one at the door to give me any bronzer, though.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Any questions for Lee?
We passed
Oh, yes.
around what was not in your packet, but Lee has a request for you to accept the donations from the Booster Club.
Yes, as you know, we work with the Booster Club. Both the TMA and the Athletic Booster Club are extremely supportive of what we do in our programs. The Booster Club would like to donate these items to our athletic department, cheer uniforms for our competition team. We supply them with their sideline uniforms, and cheer does a lot for the boosters, and there are several events, and they wanted to provide spirit wear for them to be at those events. The hydro collator and the trifold mats are for our athletic trainer. New swim flags. They donated an American flag and also a solar light, which our electrical students put up and put together in honor of our coach Vincent Scalchi, who passed away last year at the start of the basketball season. They are also looking to donate. It's a batting cage net for the baseball field, a batting cage net for the softball field, so those are just new nets to replace the old nets. It's called a batting cage turtle, so it's that round turtle thing that you see behind so that the pop flies don't go flying. A new pitching machine attachment, new tennis ball shooting machine. The one we have is quite old. And then 35 team lacrosse helmets.
Lee, do you have any idea what the dollar amount is on the total?
I don't have the total here for everything. It's pretty substantial.
Yeah, like the it would be, I was just curious.
Yeah, the lacrosse helmets were roughly $3,600. The hydro collator was a big ticket item, so I can get those for you.
Okay. I think it would be nice to know. Is there a motion to accept the equipment that? So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Second. All right. Further discussion on the? If not, we'll move to a vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? So moved.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. All right, moving right on to committee reports. Mr. Television Blue.
Good evening. With spring here, May 19th and June are in earshot. The school community rallies together to finish the year off strong. Perhaps most exciting was, as Ms. Joseph mentioned, our student council trip to the MASC conference in Hyannis. The delegation exhibited great courage, plunging into the frigid waters of the Atlantic, succeeding. Ms. Joseph was there, she plunged with us. She was, the theme was a ratatouille, so we had, the majority were rats. There were, the three boys were chefs, myself included, and then one of the students was the elderly woman with the shotgun, and the gas mask, and then Ms. Joseph was,
Piece of cheese.
In this succeeded months of fundraising efforts in which close to $4,000 was raised. Through the 3-day conference, the delegation grappled with various ideas, workshops and keynote lectures regarding leadership, and will be exploring how the council and school can be better shaped and improved upon as a result of this 3-day experience. Several students from our council also received recognition for their efforts, including senior Kira Dambley winning the Unsung Hero Award, and sophomore Jackson Landine, who was recognized for raising, I believe it was the most out of any single student that attended. For Special Olympics, is it around
1,500 or
1,500. So those students were recognized. 3 students from our executive board also presented a workshop on goal setting called Finding Your Focus, and this workshop aimed to achieve goals due to planning and goal setting. Out of practice since 2020, students were immensely poised to resume attendance at the conference in its original in-person at the Cape in over 3 days and 2 nights, interfacing with other councils. Now upon the return, we begin planning for Spring Fling, our Dude Be Nice Week, Teacher Appreciation, and, as Ms. Joseph said, selected senior events and spirit weeks. On the social justice front, our Connections program traveled to the Sutton Connections Conference on the 17th, which is a social justice summit open to Connections chapters across New England. Each year, a little less than 50 workshops are offered to 700 people with diverse and variable topics represented. This year, our delegation were picked to present one. It was called Neurojustice. We have 2 students, Samantha McGlinchey and then Jake Rosen. I always wanted to talk about myself. So this workshop explored neurodiversity and combined aspects of social justice with neuroscience, which was done intentionally to kind of give people a new perspective to get them excited. There's a lot of different out there type of workshops where you'd be surprised how you can connect this topic with something. So we did that through neuroscience, and people were actually very excited about that. And each workshop had a 25-person cap, and this one filled up almost immediately. Participants enjoyed the workshop and participated vigorously. Additionally, they opened up on a personal level, developed a rapport with the material, and appreciated the underlying neuroscience behind what makes us all so similar and yet so different. Tantasqua was well represented across all fronts. Happening this week is a keynote speaker, Ms. Joseph mentioned, who will be speaking to the school in its entirety. And he was also our keynote at the conference on the Cape. And the high school was excited for this highly anticipated keynote presentation, and because of COVID and everything, it's been a while since we've kind of had a large assembly for this purpose, so that should be good. Spring sports are just about to begin. Academics continue to be at the forefront of each student's week, and everyone is looking forward to the spring dance, which has been out of practice since March of 2020. Thank you, and looking forward to the next meeting.
Thank you, Judge. Any predictions on spring sports?
Well, I like lacrosse. I think the lacrosse team will do well in the track, and softball, in all the sports.
And for those of you who just can't get enough of Jake, Jake is going to be one of our student presenters at our retreat on Saturday. Just a reminder to all of you, if you don't have it on your schedule, make sure you put it on your schedule. and we look forward to seeing you there. So, that, we will move on to other committee reports, budgets.
All set.
We're gonna receive that one in sign language.
We did went over to change everything tonight. We did.
Right.
Okay, technical? No report. Curriculum.
We did not have a meeting since this last meeting, but we do have one coming up on April 10th at 6 p.m.
Okay, April 10th for curriculum. All right, bylaw and policy?
Yes,
Really?
I know, something new and different.
All right, Michelle, the floor is yours.
Well, we're gonna take up our new business, which isn't really new business.
No, it's not.
Some
It's
of
a
you.
throwback to November, I think.
Yes, you may recognize the 12 policies on this list. As you may recall, they were all before the committee in November. Of the 12 policies before you, only 2 really allow for any discretion by this committee. All the rest involve recommendations of the subcommittee or changes that are really just meant to bring our policies in line with current law and are required. We have to make those changes. At the time in November, Mr. Valenzola had some concerns over some of the policies, and all 12 were referred back to the budget subcommittee, who had not specifically considered them prior to being brought before the full committee. As I understand it, there were some issues trying to get together with Mr. Valenzola in budget, but I did become aware of what the issues were, and the policies eventually made their way back to bylaw. And we looked at them again, and we decided to bring them forward to you again, exactly as we did in November, with one exception. And I'll take them all under one motion, one
Okay.
recommendation. Very quickly run through them and highlight the one that had the change since November. So very quickly, DB, annual budget. You'll see 2 new paragraphs. It simply brings the policy in line with law. We have no discretion there. It's what Mass General Law 7116B tells us we must include in our policy. DBC, budget deadlines and schedules, is a technical change only. We switched Board of Selectmen to Select Board / Board of Selectmen until I think one of our 5 towns makes that change finally. And then from that point on, all of ours will then say Select Board. Budget planning, which is policy DBD. We deleted that second paragraph, which we thought was unnecessary. It's just editorializing. And we made the change of school committee to superintendent or designee, which is more correct. It puts the responsibility for budget planning in the hands of the superintendent, which is where it always has been, versus the school committee. Policy DBG, simply cleaned it up by deleting established by law and regional agreement, because we have the legal reference there, so it's unnecessary language. Policy DBJ, included the legal reference only, MGL Chapter 71-37. Policy DD, grants, proposals, and special projects. This one you will recall, again, there's no discretion here. This is what the law requires as far as how we handle our grants, proposals, and special projects. As we discussed in November, we will come before the committee in May at our last meeting of the year to discuss how to handle any grants that come in over the summer, so that we give our administration the power to expend those funds without having to pull the school committee in to approve each and every one of those. So we'll raise that in May. But in the meantime, again, no discretion on this policy. This is what's required under the law. Policy DGA, authorized signatures. You'll recall that there are 2 policies, actually, I guess, where this issue came up, 2 out of the 12. You recall that our policy has always been that when we have warrants and bills, they come before the committee each month, they get passed around, we all sign them, or majority of us here have to sign them. You'll see our policy, the areas in paragraphs 1 and 2 which were stricken, that's not what our policy said. Our policy, as it stands right now, is that the chairman of the school committee or their designee and the superintendent sign them. So we wanted to make our policy conform with what our actual practice was. But we then realized that the law allows us to take a shortcut, not have everybody sign it, but go to a single signatory. This was the issue that was raised by the chair. And when they came back to the subcommittee, we looked at both the authorized signatures and the policy, which is coming up 2 from now, about how we sign our warrants, and decided that given the current structure of the school committee, the numbers that we have, the changes which are inherent with a school committee this size, it made sense to go back to recommending what we have been doing as practice. In fact, that the warrants continue to be presented at each meeting monthly, that they be passed around, and that a majority of the members in attendance sign those warrants. We always can go to a single signatory down the line, but in terms of making sure we always had someone available to do that, and what were the procedures going to be, how were those people going to be selected, we simply couldn't get agreement on that. And it was not unanimous, I think, within the subcommittee. We all had different feelings about it, but at this point in time, it's the recommendation of the school committee that we go back and conform our policy to our current practice, which is to have them signed at each monthly meeting and be made available then as listed at our next meeting's report. Policy DI, fiscal accounting and reporting, we added a legal reference only. Policy DIE, audits, again, this is not discretionary, this is a change mandated by a change in the law. Policy DJE, we simply changed the numbers from 50,000 to 100,000, bidding numbers. Again, it's dictated by law and the legal reference. Policy DK, our payment procedures, this is where you'll see again, we are conforming the policy to our current practice, where the majority of committee members will be responsible for the review and approval of warrants as correct and approved for payment. That is what we do now. And I think our last policy listed was simply taken up for review by the subcommittee and does not require any action by the full committee. That's policy JJA.
Can I just confirm going forward, because it has been a while since we've only had reviewed policies.
Yep.
I think we said if they were reviewed, we didn't need to put copies of them, but
Correct.
list that they were reviewed.
Correct.
We weren't sure, so we put it in here.
Nope, correct.
That, I wanted to make sure, because there could be some more coming.
So,
Since the motion is to take the policies.
Oh, yes, right. JJ does have some changes, Michelle.
excuse me? Well, we decided at the time, we did, and we were just talking about that. You'll see the overnight travel you're talking about?
Yeah.
The overnight travel included an addition. At the time, we discussed, because it was an IE, it was an explanation of a term, that it didn't necessarily have to come before this group.
Oh.
But I'm happy to discuss it. You'll see on the overnight trips. When we had a staff member recently requesting permission for an overnight trip, the school committee approval of that trip, there was some question as what does our policy mean when it says the school committee will only review for approval school-sanctioned trips? And it raised the question, what is a school-sanctioned trip? So you'll see we tried to expand on that language by adding IE, trips approved by principal and or superintendent designate. And principal, I know, is spelled incorrectly. And that simply means that before it comes to the school committee, we as a group will have assurance that the administration, either in the form of the principal or someone through the superintendent, designated by the superintendent, has reviewed and approved that trip to come before us.
Okay. So the motion has been to accept the policies as a block. Is there any question on any of the policies that the members have of Michelle?
Michelle, I just have a quick question.
Yep.
And the authorized signatures, you'll know what I'm asking. Will this have to trickle down to the lower end
No.
because we're already signing?
No, and that was the whole point of the conversation.
Okay.
Elementary schools, a number of years ago, was part of the Municipal Relief Act. Elementary schools, first out of the gate, had the ability to vote as a committee to allow one member to sign. We've been doing that, please don't change that,
Okay.
it's awesome. But, the conversation back then was, initially it was only individual municipalities, and then the conversation came up, and ultimately the law changed to allow regions. The conversation becomes when you have 18 members and we all get along, awesome. But there are districts, and quite frankly, past years, that maybe some folks from one town is not comfortable relinquishing their ability and their signing to someone else. So ultimately, we were like, there's no need to change, it's working fine. But that's why it wasn't part of the original legislation, and then some school districts did ask for it, so it's an option. But elementaries, let's leave it there.
Oh, thank you.
Because all 5 of you are from the same town, and
I was gonna say, if we weren't a
you're
five-town.
more comfortable, it's the kind of cross-town stuff.
Some good news.
A regional nature is what makes
It
it
is,
complicated
it is.
at the high school.
Always does.
Yeah, yeah.
Any further questions or comments before we call for the vote? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of accepting the policies as presented by policy committee, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? They're all passed. And we move right on then to negotiations. Thanks, God. And moving on to billing and physical plant.
No meeting, no report?
No meeting, no report. Very good. Communications. Deb?
Just a couple, you all received the second quarter Southern Worcester County and Collaborative, which we continue to send you quarterly to meet our legal obligation, and have noted here, and I actually have very little superintendent's report too, because everyone has already taken the wind out of my sails. Lee mentioned, but I will reinforce, the All Arts Night. This invite actually was sent to all committee chairs to try and spread the word by Carol Willard, who, I remind you, this is her last year. So I would love this to be a great event for her. Carol is retiring. And this is the first time in 4 years we have had the All Arts. So any of you who haven't gone, know that it's not, you don't have to be there 5 to 8. It is any time from 5 to 8. You go to the high school and you wander the halls and see all kinds of really cool artwork from kids across the district. That's it for communications.
Very good. Thank you. Then, no superintendent's report, unfinished business, I don't see any listed. New business, we've taken care of. Public access, do we have anyone would like to make a comment? Michelle? No comment. All right, open, yes.
I just wanna mention, April 14th, our show choirs will be performing across the street, so you'll just have to see our 3 groups, Maestros, Encore, and Radiance. Free will offering at the door.
And, any
7
other,
p.m.
anything else in the open forum? If not, I would call for a motion for adjournment. Someone like to make that motion? Megan makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Goodwin. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, folks. Very jealous.